Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Echohawk's amazing metrics article on Dungeons and Dragons edition, and we're going to look at third edition. So let's do the numbers. So I'm going to round these to the nearest, 10, 100,000. Here we go. There were 170 third edition products, okay, for Dungeons and Dragons. They came to a total of 24,700 pages. If you bought every single one of these products, you would spend $4,300. And this ran from 2000 to 2008. Okay. All right. So this was an extremely important time in Dungeons and Dragons history. Extremely important. All right, so there's huge changes that are happening in Dungeons and Dragons at this point, and you and I are living in a world that has been constructed by the changes that happened right here. Okay, so 2000 to 2008, third edition of Dungeons and Dragons is under Hasbro. Hasbro has purchased Wizards of the Coast. Even then, by the way, Wizards of the Coast doesn't matter. It's not a thing. Okay, it's just a sticker for people who don't understand business, right? They're like, oh, this is getting made by Wizards of the Coast. No, this is getting made by Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast is a quaint little sticker that remains on the product to this day to make people feel like things haven't changed, but they really have. So Hasbro is in charge of Dungeons and Dragons. They're the third company to own Dungeons and Dragons. TSR abysmally owned it from 1974 to 1997, and then Wizards of the Coast actually owned it from 1997 to 1999, and then Wizards of the Coast was purchased lock, stock, and barrel by Hasbro, and Hasbro has been the guardian, the protector, the distributor, the creator of Dungeons and Dragons since 1999. So they've been doing it for 26 years. Okay. All right. So let's talk about third. So Hasbro is in charge. This is a massive, massive change. The products get more professional. Right. You start to see the death. At this point, you see the death of the folio. Third edition, they're like, we're not going to fart around with these, scrub little, adventures that have 32 pages or 64 pages. We're going to do hardback books, and we're going to do soft covers. So this was an interesting breakdown by Echohawk, these folios, these hard covers, these soft covers, and these box sets. And when you look at Dungeons and Dragons rules, generally that's where they've been showing up, right? Like there are some exceptions, but that's generally how Dungeons and Dragons rules have always been distributed. That has massively changed today. I actually think that every single Magic the Gathering card printed by Hasbro is really an unbound page of Dungeons and Dragons. So that's a huge change. But at this point, Hasbro's in charge, and in third edition we get something we've never had before, and that is we get the OGL. So this was Ryan Dancy's idea to say anybody can make Dungeons and Dragons official product. You have to obey these rules. You have to put this in, you have to put this page, this OGL page or pages in your, I think it was just one page. I think it's always been one page. You have to put this OGL hook in your product, but go to town, man. You can make what you want. We're here. Like you can really do, you can create official Dungeons and Dragons content. And this changed the industry forever. We're still dealing. Actually, I don't think it changed. I don't think it changed the industry for good. The biggest thing is that it invited a bunch of people to do activity in the TTRPG sphere, and honestly, I think it was quite dangerous because the reality is the tabletop role-playing game industry is not strong enough to actually support people. It's a hobby. Even when you're creating TTRPGs, it's a hobby. There's you can count the number of real companies that make TTRPGs on one hand. And have fingers left over, right? It is an activity sphere that pretends to be a real, I'm a real boy. Are you, Pinocchio? Are you? And so it's I don't, and I actually think one of the biggest problems we're dealing with today is the OGL comes out, and then every other company's like, oh, we have to have an OGL, we have to have third party creators creating content. And this is absolutely not true. We do not need a single third party creator making any content for any game. And the reason why is there's so many great games coming out. If we just stay with the creators content, you never need extra. There's no shortage of adventures, source books, core rule books for any game. It's ridiculous. And I think we are on the edge of this now, where we're actually starting to see some real damaging effects. What's that, Scott? Where are the damaging effects? Shadow Dark. They just announced, like, so that Shadow Dark's like, oh, I have to have an OGL. They created a very open OGL, and lots of third-party content creators are jumping in. I played one, Dark Space. Great game, right? But now there's just garbage, right? So, like, what is the garbage? Right now, they're kickstartering a Redwall Shadow Dark, right? Shadow Dark with furry animals, right? Like, and just like woodland creatures and turtles, and it's cute, right? But where's the dark part? You can't put teddy bears into and be like, oh, this is scary. No, like, it's not scary, right? Like, it's an absolute destruction of whatever Shadow Dark ever was at some point, and now it's just a big pile of slop. And you're like, well, I don't know if it's a big pile of slop, Scott. Yeah, you don't know. What do you think happened? And this is exactly what happened with third edition. They opened the OGL. It was great. Some companies made some great stuff, and then by the end, it was an absolute pile of slop. And by the time fourth edition comes around, they're like, oh my gosh, can we shut this down? This is terrible. And it's terrible today. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.